How scary is a self-disciplined Tyrannosaurus Rex? 333 push-ups a day, 444 leg raises, but he was afraid to recognize his mother. The story begins. A mother dinosaur found an egg in a river. It wasn't long before the egg broke out of its shell. The baby dinosaur not only had a strange skin color, it also had jagged teeth. The leader of the tribe decided to kill it. The mother protects him with her body, but to protect the herd, she put the baby dinosaur in a cave where there was food, and then she turned and left, and the baby's cries made the mom very sad. She decided to raise the baby dinosaur anyway. Time flew by. The little dinosaur grew up very quickly. His mother named him Hart, and his brother was called Right. Mom volunteered to leave the pack. She voluntarily broke away from the pack, and now she's happy. On this day, Hart was out looking for food, but as Hart grew older, his natural instincts came out. He decided to go out on his own to find the meat he wanted to eat. Hart came out into the savannah. He was terrified by the sight of a T-Rex feeding on him, but it was only after the leader freed him that he was able to return home. Hart was terrified. He was afraid that he would become food for others, until he saw his brother. Hart cried out, but he didn't realize that a bully had followed him, and found him and his brother, and he stomped on Hart's brother, and made Hart bite his brother's neck off. Hart bit off a piece of his tail in anger. That's how he saved his brother. But he couldn't stop himself from jumping on his brother. It was his last ounce of sanity that stopped him. Hart turned his head and ran away from his family. On his way home, Hart found an egg, and out of it crawled a small, herbivorous dinosaur. Hart said he looked delicious. When he was about to eat the baby called out excitedly for its father, and thought Tasty was his name. Hart was at a loss for words. The baby T-Rex followed him wherever he went, but the baby was a herbivore. Hart had to find an excuse to run off to find food, but when Hart came back from his meal, he found that the baby dinosaur was gone. He searched for it for a long time, but he couldn't find it. Hart thought the baby dinosaur had been eaten, but then a small figure appeared behind him. Hart scolded the little dragon for going so far away. The little dragon cried in frustration. He knew his father didn't like to eat grass, so he picked a lot of red fruits. Hart had no choice but to throw them into his mouth to make him happy. Because of this accident, Hart began to train the little dragon. The little dragon wanted to be as strong as his father, but Hart thought, sooner or later, he would find out the truth. He had to get him home before then. By the next day, Hart and the dragon agreed to run a race, and if he won, he promised never to leave. So the innocent little dragon ran as fast as he could, but Hart turned away after a while. Hart thought to himself, this is as far as the little dragon will go. However, the baby T-Rex strayed into the territory of some T-Rexes. Hart heard the baby's cries. He rushed over and rescued him from the mouths of the T-Rexes. Hart was angry. He had already considered the baby T-Rex a family member. Hat was chased off the plains by his leader, but that didn't matter to Hat. Took the baby to the cliffs, trying desperately to wake him up, but Hart never expected. The first thing he said after he was rescued was, "Dad." Hart fully understood how his mother felt when she raised him. They came to the bottom of the sea. They lived here for many years. One day Hart learned that a volcano would soon erupt, and Hart's mom lived at the foot of the volcano. So Hart decided that he would go and rescue her. Hart returned to the land with his baby T-Rex. He met the T-Rex, who had been bullying them, but Hart was no longer the little dinosaur he was. He took care of him in one move. At that moment, the volcano erupted. Hart ran back to the herbivores, but all he saw, his brother, who was keeping the herd safe. It turned out that Mom had been missing Hart. She's been living in a hole in a tree. Hat threatened the dragons to leave, or he would eat them. Then he ran back to the cave, and saw his mom. Hat led the group out of the forest. The T-Rex leader suddenly appeared and stopped them. Buck told them that if they wanted to leave, they would have to defeat him. Hart fought Buck for the safety of his family. He fought with Buck, but Hart didn't know Buck was his real father. From the moment he met Hart, Buck already knew. He could only teach Hart in the way he did now. The final blow to growing up, Buck knocked Hart down with his body. Buck hugged him tightly. It was the first time he had ever hugged his son. Buck fell to the ground, satisfied. Hart had been away from his father since he was a child, but he met his herbivore mother. They all loved him without exception, and now Hart would pass that love on.